Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, JoshuaJHolland, and today we have another wonderful female boss on the show. We have a entrepreneur. I'm getting used to kind of saying that word now.
Good. Love that.
Yes, and so today on the show we have Brittany Fuisz. And I'm quite certain I said that right because in her one sheet, she labeled it with the phonetic sounding of it. So thank you for that. That was very, very helpful. The key focus for this conversation today with Brittany is going to be to inspiring moms, mompreneurs, health-minded individuals by revolutionizing plant-based milks. So that's going to be a really big key here. And basically, Brittany is the CEO and founder of Malibu Milk, which is a wonderful name, wonderful product. I myself have here. I've purchased it because I wanted to make sure and do my research before bringing her onto the show. Brittany she's been amazing. She has a sustainable allergen-free alternative milk that she created. She attained her degree in marketing and management from Georgetown University and then a diploma from Le Cordon Bleu. She began her career with Hillstone Restaurant Group and their manager training program. And she spent time working on the line at 3 Michelin star Le Bernardin in NYC, which I happen to know. I know him very well, actually, as well as a Food Network in the business development. So, Brittany, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joshua.
Yeah. So, where are you currently right now? Like, where are you calling from?
I live in LA, calling from my home in LA, my home office in sunny Los Angeles, California.
Amazing. Yeah, I had the luxury of being in LA for a big chunk of 2020, and it allowed me the opportunity to understand what Malibu is all about, right? Because being from Oklahoma, I'm originally from Oklahoma, but I've been based in New York City for almost 20 years. And I'll be honest, like I'd never really spent a lot of time in California. So when people would talk about like the Malibu vibe or the Venice vibe or whatever, I never really understood it until I lived there. And so lo and behold, there's this milk company that kind of comes across my, or this alternative to milk, to real milk, comes across my desk. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. It's called Malibu Milk. And I immediately gained this perspective because I lived there. I'm like, oh, it must be something worth trying if it's from Malibu, right? Like, or if it's based in Malibu. So I figured, let me try it out, and then we have you on the show. So how about we just kind of start there? Let's talk about what the hell is Malibu Milk, and why should people even continue listening to this show?
Malibu Milk is the world's most nutritious, sustainable, and tasty milk on the planet. Period. It is made from the whole ground flaxseed, and we don't strain anything out, which makes it really unique from other plant-based milks. Most plant-based milks are made by blending the main ingredient with water and then straining that ingredient out. We leave the whole ground flaxseed in, so you are getting fiber, protein, omega-3s in every single glass. So it's chucked full of nutrition. It's the best choice for your body. And the only water required for the flax flour is natural rainfall. So it's also the best choice for our planet. You can use Malibu milk just like you would any other milk. So coffee, cereal, smoothies, baking, makes a great mac and cheese. mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, that's why we're here.
Well, again, thank you for that. And I love, first of all, I love your hustle, and I deeply respect it because you're a mom and you're busy, and I thought it was it was interesting when we were trying to schedule this. The people that helped to schedule this podcast, it was just interesting because at first I think they had asked, like, how long do these podcasts on Simply Walk the Talk usually go? And I say, usually it's anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And I know sometimes it freaks people out, but it was kind of like the response back from your team was like, wait, listen, she doesn't have that kind of time. So, we need to like make this concise. And so, but I do respect that because that is along the lines of creating boundaries. And I think that's very important when it comes to being a successful entrepreneur. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
And I do have your website pulled up, and I'm going to share the screen here because I can applaud you on the look of it. The branding is on point. And so maybe that's where we can go next is like, let's just talk about what we see. So I'm at MalibuMylk.com, which is spelled MYLK. So not MI, but MYLK. And like, let's just start from there. Let's start. I'm on the website. Let me know kind of what would someone expect from entering onto your website or taking this product home.
Yeah, I think people notice our branding first. It's eye-catching, it's fun, it's bright, it's vibrant, and believe it or not, our bottles are black. If you go into the milk aisle, you will notice a slew of white and blue bottles. And I really wanted Malibu Milk to stand out. So I worked with a graphic designer from the get-go when I had this idea. And I knew that I wanted Malibu Milk to have a palm tree on our logo because I associate palm trees with growing up in Southern California. I grew up in Malibu. That's why it's called Malibu Milk. And I knew I wanted bright colors, but I knew I wanted the bottle to be black. It just really resonated with me and seemed to stand out again against this sea of white and blue in the milk aisle. You'll also find our ingredients. You'll find our product offerings. You'll find our specific ingredients. You'll find what makes us special. We have 4 different flavors of milk. Our unsweetened vanilla is our most popular. It has a touch of organic cinnamon powder. So if you like cinnamon, the unsweetened vanilla is that's what you've got right there. There you go.
Yeah.
Did you buy that? Where did you buy that? At Whole Foods in New York City?
That's exactly right. In fact, this will be interesting. I was, again, back to kind of doing my due diligence when it comes to interviewing guests and having wholesome conversations. I was making a journey. It's really hot here in New York right now. Well, probably everywhere around the world it's really hot. Hello, climate change. But
right.
I'm on the train, and my buddy was with me. We just came back from a training session, and he was gonna stop at Whole Foods on 125th here in Harlem. And my stop is the next stop. And I thought, oh, you know what? I need to stop by Whole Foods as well because I want to see if Malibu Milk is there. Because I kind of knew that it may have been in Whole Foods, but I wasn't sure if it was at this one, right? Because you just never know. Maybe it's not on the East Coast. I don't know. And lo and behold, there it was. So I decided to get both flavors. Thank you. I'll be honest, I did do a quick little taste test of both of these.
Tell us, Joshua. Tell us everything.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, right? Because my friend was still with me when I tried it out. And I love this because this is kind of how I incorporate an interview, because I want to know what people are asking. And so because this was a very honest approach to doing this, he's like, oh, so what is this thing you're buying? And I'm like, well, I am interviewing the founder and CEO of Malibu Milk, and I want to see if they have it at Whole Foods. He's like, okay, well, what is it? And I was like, well, I mean, from my limited knowledge, I'm going to find out soon. You should probably listen to the podcast once I upload it. But from my limited knowledge, it's a better alternative to milk alternatives, right? Because there's a lot of plant-based milks out there, and obviously from listening to some of your work, it's on a big trend. So we know people are trying to maybe fix their diets, and I applaud people for trying to find out the best way. And sometimes the best way to do that is an elimination diet, which we know about. And you can talk more about your process too.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
I told him, I'm like, yeah, it's not made with nuts or soy, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't do well with soy. And apparently I don't do well with nuts either, at least a lot of nuts, right? We know
A
it
lot
takes
of
a
people
lot,
don't. Yep.
right? Right. So I just was telling him really quickly, yeah, like I don't do well with some of these things. I happen to like myself, I like A2 raw milk, but that's very
Yeah.
difficult to get
Yeah. I know
all the
exactly
time.
what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, this might be worth a shot. And so I tasted it really quick. And he's like, so what does it taste like? And I was like, it actually doesn't taste too bad. And he was like, yeah, but is that your selling point you're going to
Yeah.
use? I'm like, well, no, no. I'm like, but what is your question? I mean, like it tastes good. It doesn't taste like real milk,
Right.
but that's okay because it's a milk alternative. But it certainly, I think, is going to be better for me. It's going to have a lot more nutrients, which you can touch on.
Yep.
But I did notice the subtle hint of cinnamon, which I love in
good.
the unsweetened vanilla
Good.
product. And I think vanilla works well with all the things that I would potentially put it in, which is my little protein shake here,
Yep.
full of fiber and omegas because of the Malibu milk. So
Yep.
let's talk about that. Let's address the question that my friend Loic was asking me about. Why should even someone care about this? What are the problems with other plant-based alternatives?
Yeah, well, how long is your program, right? It's a long list, but let's start out with some of the big ones. I think we know today that 50% of Americans are drinking plant-based milk. So you are the other 50% who are still drinking cow's milk. The reality is that a lot of Americans have an intolerance to cow's milk or dairy products in general. That doesn't mean it's an allergy. It just means it's an intolerance. If you've ever had a lot of dairy in one sitting or one day, maybe you had pizza and then you had ice cream and your stomach started to do a little dance and maybe you had to make an extra trip to the bathroom. That's what we're talking about when we say intolerance. Dairy can cause inflammation in the body. And at Malibu Milk, we are trying to ward off inflammation in all ways possible because flaxseed is anti-inflammatory. So flaxseed actually helps decrease the inflammation in your body. And when there's less inflammation in your body is going to perform better. You're going to feel better. Inflammation can cause a whole bunch of chronic issues. So you definitely don't want inflammation. Now, how much is dairy how much inflammation will dairy cause in your body? Everybody's different. There's no way to know for sure. But if you have gotten on the plant-based milk train already, which again, we know that 50% of Americans have, you want to be aware of what you're drinking and why. I think a lot of people end up drinking plant-based milk because they think that it's a better choice. But do they really know the details of what they're drinking and why? And the truth is, not all plant-based milks are created equal, right? So you want to be really conscientious of what you're purchasing. Look at the ingredients. If there are 30 ingredients with, many things that you don't know how to pronounce, that is not a plant-based milk that you want to put in your smoothies, coffee, cereal, etc. The less ingredients, the better in general. You also want to be aware of the nutritional content. So Malibu Milk, we don't believe in fortifying a plant-based milk. A lot of other milks today will add artificial vitamins. They're called synthetic vitamins because they are found not in nature. They are produced in like a lab somewhere, and they will add those into a product after the fact. At Malibu Milk, we believe in natural sources of nutrients in our foods. So the fiber, the protein, the magnesium is all naturally occurring from the whole ground flaxseed. Joshua, you and I have different needs. So, some people will say, well, what about calcium? Well, if you need calcium, first of all, there's better ways to get calcium than from milk, right? Broccoli is a great source of calcium. So But if you need to supplement your body with supplements, we would recommend that you figure out exactly what your deficiencies are, by visiting a doctor, and then finding really great sourced supplements from reputable sources that are stored in glass bottles, and take the amount of specific nutrients that you need, because what you need is different from what I need. So to throw calcium or vitamin B or D, whatever, into this milk and assume that we all need the same, we feel is erroneous. We feel like you're ahead to source individually what you need and have a product that's just a whole food source. So that's what we really strive for. We are a whole food source using the whole ground flaxseed. Let's talk about some of the biggest competitors on the market right now. So almond milk. Almonds are incredibly unsustainable. It takes 20 gallons of water to make a single glass of almond milk. 80% of the world's almonds are coming from the state of California. So this is a very, very, very real issue for us here in California. Again, the only water required for the flax flower is natural rainfall. So much better for our planet. And again, it's also a better choice for your body. There's not much protein found in almond milk or anything else because all of the almonds are strained out. You're just left with like an almond flavored water. We're not straining anything out, so that you are getting more protein, fiber from Malibu milk than you are from almond milks. Let's look at oat milk. Oat milk is big on the scene right now and definitely having a moment. Um, Oat milk is usually full of sugar and rapeseed oil. The sugar gram for gram in oat milk has a higher impact on your blood sugar than the sugar gram for gram in a can of Coca-Cola. And I don't think people realize that because they wouldn't be sitting down with Coca-Cola and adding it to their smoothie, cereal, etc. Right? So you want to be careful about the amount of sugar, the amount of carbs in the oat milk. Most oats are covered in glyphosate. That is known as weed killer. It is potentially very carcinogenic. And so you want to be really careful that the oats that you are sourcing are glyphosate free. We actually have a flax oat milk at Malibu Milk that I went out of my way to found glyphosate free organic oats for. These are third party tested, so they are guaranteed to be glyphosate free. And there is no risk of weed killer in our milk. It's also unsweetened. So whereas most oat milks can have like 150 calories in 8 ounces, ours only has 45s, and it's not going to spike your blood sugar the same way that most other oat milks will. A lot of oat milks have rapeseed oil or canola oil as a second ingredient. They are doing that to get that luscious mouthfeel that you're used to with a cow's milk. At Malibu Milk, we don't believe in adding oils to our products. Oils also cause inflammation. So, because we're using the whole ground flaxseed, it naturally creates that nice, thick mouth texture that is reminiscent of a cow's milk because flaxseed is a natural emulsifier. So, we're getting that to happen all on its own. So those are just a couple of, the major ones. Soy milk can cause hormonal imbalances. Pea milk usually uses oils and sugars. These are things that we just don't do at Malibu Milk. Our milk is refined, sugar-free, and again, full of real nutrients.
Thank you for that comparison because I'm certain there are people listening thinking, yeah, but like I drink blah, silk, or I drink, soy this and I think you just addressed a lot of the major ones out there. But I still am curious, and so I imagine the audience person listening or viewing, I'm curious like how you came across this or why this was even important for you because it's obviously it's important for a lot of us, but no one else came up with Malibu Milk. So like what was your journey?
Yeah, I was trying to get pregnant and it was a challenge for me. It was taking a lot longer than expected. And I went to see a fertility doctor, and she recommended I go on an autoimmune protocol. It's otherwise known as an elimination diet. and I had to eliminate all major allergens. So dairy, nuts, gluten, soy, eggs. And you can imagine when you've eliminated dairy, nuts, and soy, you've wiped out almost all of the milk aisle, both traditional cow's milk and most plant-based milk. So I was really frustrated looking for an alternative. And I literally had this kind of light bulb go off. And I thought, what if I make milk from flaxseed? I've always loved flaxseed. I would add it to smoothies or oatmeal, constantly looking for ways to get more fiber and omega-3s into my diet. So I went home that day, pulled out my blender, and started playing with a few really simple ingredients: the whole ground flaxseed, Himalayan salt. And I was getting this incredibly milky drink. And I thought, wow, maybe I'm onto something here. And so I did what any aspiring entrepreneur would do at that point, and I reached out to Whole Foods to pitch them on this idea. And I got a meeting faster than I could have ever imagined. Panicked, almost canceled. But I called a friend within the industry and he said, don't cancel. You need to take this meeting. So I went in and sold them on the dream of this allergen-free, anti-inflammatory milk made from the whole ground flaxseed. And she said, I'd love to bring this into stores in the coming weeks. And I said, well, I can't do the coming weeks, but I can do the next couple of months. And that's how it all began.
That is such a beautiful story. I got this visual of you explaining that. I got this visual of you being on Shark Tank. You know what I mean? Like it's probably kind of similar to that, like just being thrust
Yes.
in. But kudos to you, one, for having the gall to be able to kind of withstand the powers that be at such a mega company like Whole Foods. But I also think it goes to show what you have to offer personally, but also from a brand perspective, and like understanding. I'm sure you had all the information that you could present, but like, who wouldn't want to tap into one of the fastest growing markets right now?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
so I think it's smart for them, but also smart for you. So, is it available at all Whole Foods? Like, where can you find it?
Yeah, so we're in 3 Whole Foods regions. We're in Southern California, New York, and the Rocky Mountain. We're also available online, and we are setting up code JOSH20 for your listeners. So buy it
Yeah.
on our website. It'll come in a couple of days, and you're going to get 20% off using that JOSH20, and it'll be shipped straight to your front door. We have shelf-stable packaging, so no need to worry about it going bad, and you just pop it in the fridge before you're ready to try it out. And I think that's the easiest way to find it.
That's amazing. Okay, so all right, so we've kind of sussed out the differences because, like, let's face it, I am one that I would consider myself an omnivore, but a very conscious omnivore, and someone that utilizes as much testing as I guess is necessary or reasonable as possible. So kind of like your point about if you need to supplement with X, Y, and Z, then do so. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to be as efficient and effective as possible when it comes to that. I do, however, think it's very important to have a clean, sustainable, effective, great tasting, available product like Malibu Milk to be able to suggest to some of my clients who happen to be plant-based, like 100% plant-based. It's not my job to tell someone they should or should not have real milk versus plant-based milk. But if you are going to go down the route of a plant-based alternative, I certainly think this is worth a shot because
Yeah.
one, it tastes good. Two, you're getting a hookup, a discount, and three, we get the opportunity to talk to the person who created it. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
um,
always
so for those who are watching the show, you may have seen me a couple times now pull up the website. And on the website, I myself, for the first time, just realized like, oh, you guys have some new products out. So can we talk about
we
that?
do. We have coffee and matcha lattes that are in 8-ounce cans. We like to say they are your digestion's new best friend, or the number one way to go number two. They are loaded with fiber, only 60 calories a can. They are gentle yet effective, and they are delicious. We're using Japanese ceremonial grade matcha, organic coffee extract, and we're blending it with our flax oat milk. And they're really good. They've got caffeine, so they'll give you a little pick me up. But unlike other ready to drinks that generally give you a crash because they're loaded with sugar, these only have 1 gram of sugar and no added sugar. So, they're really meant to help you feel. All of our products are intended to help you feel your best without giving you any sort of crash after.
What was that one liner you said at the beginning? I love that, by the way. You said like
your digestion's new bestie, or the number one way to go number two.
Yeah, the number one way to go number two. I love that. Like that's
Yep.
Yeah, well done. And by the way,
Good one.
the marketing, the branding of the matcha one is spot on. It just looking at it is very refreshing. And yes,
Thank you.
I'm encouraging people to watch the video, of course, but like it really is beautiful. It's got nice green tones. It's got some, nice pink, and it actually looks very refreshing, almost like you're taking a chill on the beach. I love that. Hence Malibu.
Thank you.
So you got the flax and oat milk matcha, and what else? What else is new? Is there anything else you can talk about?
Our one of our milk flavors, it's called slightly sweetened. It's sweetened with organic dates. So Joshua, they don't have this one at the Whole Foods in New York yet, but it's delicious. It's refined sugar free. Again, we just use organic dates to sweeten it. Moms love it because it's refined sugar free. Kids love it because it has a little bit of sweetness, only 4 grams of sugar per serving. But that's great for baking, or, milk does have some sugar in it. So if you're looking for a recipe, even like mac and cheese, it's great to use the slightly sweetened because it does add that hint of sweetness that you're used to from cow's milk.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I also saw there was a, like a coffee and matcha combo. That sounds intense.
We have it's just a combo pack. So if you order the combo pack, you get to try one of each. Yep.
Okay, got it. I mean, hey, I've probably done worse. You never know. No, that's really, really fascinating. So it seems like you're doing really well. Is this kind of your full-time thing, or, where do you see the company going?
Yeah, this is absolutely my full-time thing. We want to grow. We want to become a household brand name. I want Malibu Milk to be I want it to be like, a craft where you know exactly what that brand is when you hear it.
Okay. And then I would assume that so you've been doing a lot of different podcasting and branding, and, it just makes me think is your background in marketing, or is your background in nutrition, or sort of what can you? Yeah. I know we said we weren't going to go over your background, but I think in situations like this, it's very relevant. So yeah, let's hear it.
Happy to. So I worked at Yelp before starting Malibu Milk. I ran Yelp in LA. I was in charge of the community here in Los Angeles, and I grew the community to be one of the largest in the world for Yelp. Wow. So yes, I do have a background in marketing, and I studied marketing at Georgetown. But I knew I wanted to do my own thing. It was just a matter of finding the right idea and getting behind it.
Awesome. And so wrapping up that story about you trying to get pregnant and all that, did it work successfully? I mean, is that something you willing to talk about?
Yeah. No, I did get pregnant. I have 2 young children. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. It's part of the reason that I'm so busy now. Okay. And they are the best thing on earth. I feel so grateful to have this family. And it was a process for me. We ended up doing IVF, which, I'm pretty much an open book about now. But I got there. The IVF process I actually found to be pretty easy. I know some people really struggle with it. And, for anybody out there who's wondering if they should do it, I would say, if you want to be a parent and, that's the only thing kind of standing in your way, go for it. For me, it wasn't a big deal at all. And I'm so grateful that process exists. And I have, these 2 little kids now, but I think that the journey for me, part of it was creating this really unique product, right? Like this was my first baby, Malibu Milk. And I am still madly in love with Malibu Milk and everything that we represent.
That is beautiful. Um, yeah, I love that. So let me guess, your kids are into it as well, right? At least a four
Oh
year
yeah,
old. Yeah.
totally.
Awesome. That's it. That's really cool. Yeah, I anticipate you know how like that thing is when something is brought to your attention, you kind of recognize it a little bit more. Like I feel like
Hmm.
that's what's going to happen with me now in Malibu Milk, and I think that's
Hmm.
obviously
Hmm.
probably the point of this,
Yeah.
because when I went to the sort of in Whole Foods here in Harlem in New York, they have this section, and I don't know if all the Whole Foods are like that, but there's like, I guess there's like traditional milk, and then there's the milk alternative, and then there's other areas, and right there front and center, I because I had been to your website briefly and I saw some of your packaging, I was like, bam, it stood out just like that. So
Yay.
and the other thing I have to comment on is it's very reasonably priced. I was
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I was shocked at the price, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
good. Well,
um
that's great to hear.
I think I could be wrong. Correct me on this. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. But I think it was like 4.99 for.
Yeah, it was 4.99. That's always in flux, so I don't want to guarantee that it'll be
Of
4.99 when
course,
someone goes to buy
of
it.
course.
But that's where it is at right now at Whole Foods in New York today. So
Yeah, which is great because you look at all the other prices nearby and it's considerably different. So
yeah.
I do understand that. Obviously, like who knows when someone is listening to this, it could be cheaper, it could be more expensive, it could be whatever. But something else that just came to mind that I want to touch on um, before we do our Pomodoro break is the fact that this is a whole ground product, or you're grinding the whole seed and not just straining it. You're utilizing the
Yeah.
entire process. That would assume, I think one could assume that there's going to be some kind of pulp or some kind of ground texture in there. Is that
Hmm.
true? Are people going to feel that in the mouth? Like, what are some of the things that you're hearing there?
No, I mean, yeah, there is. We do have the whole flaxseed in there, so yes, you are going to see it in the bottle, but no, you don't usually taste it really at all. There is, like I said, a thick texture because flaxseed is a natural emulsifier. But what did you think, Joshua, when you tried it?
Yeah, it was. It reminded me of in the past when I've tried to do what I think a lot of people have tried before, which is making nut milks. And sometimes you get a little bit of, depending on what kind of cheesecloth you use or whatever, sometimes a bit of the substance, the ground flour substance gets caught into the actual liquid. It
Yeah,
felt a little bit like that, but it was very subtle. It was extremely
yeah.
subtle, and obviously, I think most people nowadays know that anything you get that sits on the shelf, you should probably shake it before you use it. So
Shake that baby up.
shake it
Shake
up
it up.
and think of it as
Yep.
a shake weight exercise, right? So and on here it says shaking mandatory, dancing optional. Love it. Love it. Like the marketing is brilliant, and I'm glad that it actually is holding up. And I've just now started to add it into my protein shake, and I will do that for some time and see if I recognize any differences. And I do have a couple clients who I'm working with on the nutrition side who do have some intolerances to dairy. So you know what I'm going to be suggesting to them now.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. So okay, something we've started to do on the show at about the 20 or 30-minute mark is a Pomodoro break. Something to get people out of this sedentary state, whether it be a stationary isometric mind state or a sedentary physical body state. Is there something you could offer that you would possibly do for yourself or for anyone else to kind of get out of these unstuck positions?
Yeah. I mean, generally I do take a deep breath, like just like one long. And I find that if I tell my toddler to take a deep breath too, or take a deep breath just next to him, that it really helps. Um, and then I wear an Apple Watch, so it'll tell me to stand up. I'm going to do a quick stand up too, because why? I think you're already standing.
Boom, there you
So you don't
go.
need to stand.
So you're gonna stand. I'm gonna do the opposite, and I'm gonna sit, and then I'm gonna stand
There you go.
again.
Little squat action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little squat. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so that works. Also, I got a little bit of a Pomodoro break by doing the shaking and dancing optional
I love it.
exercise. So there
I
we
love it.
go. Easy peasy. Yeah, I feel like this is one of those episodes in which it's fairly simple. I think we could obviously belabor the whole like in and out of the ingredient list and all that, but I think nowadays people are savvy enough to just go onto the website. We're going to provide a lot of the information here in the show notes, of course. But before we start to go down the path of doing the last two questions that I usually do on the show, is there anything that you want to touch on that you think would be important for someone first trying out your product?
That's such a great question. Oh gosh. Something that's really unique about Malibu Milk that we hear all the time is that consumers drink it all on its own. And I don't know how you drank it, Joshua. Did you try it on its own first
That was
before you put it
that
in
was the
something?
first thing I did. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So a lot of our consumers do drink it on its own. Did you try both or just the vanilla?
Both.
Which did you prefer?
The vanilla. For me, the vanilla, because I love. First of all, I love to put vanilla in my coffee, but I also love the fact that there was this subtle hint of cinnamon. I also put cinnamon in my
Yeah,
coffee, and so there was
right.
this almost like familiar taste when in
Yes, like
drinking that.
familiarity
So
to it.
I think I'm a little bit biased in that, but yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that would be my advice. Try it on its own. If you're drinking a plant-based milk at home right now, try that on its own. See if you actually like it, and then if not, switch it up.
That is a very good
And
point.
don't forget to use that code Josh20.
That's a very good point. Yeah, and I would also maybe even suggest, if you're really curious, um, having kids try it, because kids will be very honest with you, and
It's true.
they have almost no filter. We know that, right? I have kids as well,
Mhm.
and they will be very honest with you, and they have nothing else invested except they want something that tastes good, right? And so
Yep,
if they end up
totally.
liking it, then I think you're really doing something, because of all the things you pointed out, which is you're going to be eliminating a lot of BS, and it's going to have like a different flavor profile, or it's also going to have like a different toxin profile. And I think that's, if anything else, that's one of the most important things, because sometimes I say to people, look, if you're worried about the options in terms of plant-based alternatives and real milk alternatives and all these things, then like sometimes it's better to just go with water. But even with water, you got to
Mhm.
watch out for the chemicals that are in it and the
It's
plastogen, and
true.
like, so
True.
we're almost screwed. But when you can have some products like Malibu Milk that is out there, that it's at least worth a shot. Give it a shot, try it out by itself, then maybe add it to your favorite smoothie or whatever, and see if it
Yeah,
enhances it or not.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the fun part of the show, I think, because a lot of times it's easy to talk about the product or the service that we've worked our lives to build or create and whatever, and that's all great. But this is the point in which I want to learn more about you, and the audience member also loves to hear about you. And so the first question I usually ask is, what are your top two pet peeves? Which basically is just, what are two things, and it doesn't have to be about Malibu Milk, doesn't have to be about anything we talked about, but what are two things that come to mind that just kind of get under your skin?
Lying. I hate lying. I don't believe in it. And what else?
That's a big one.
Another pet peeve. It's a big one for me. Lying is pretty up there. Um, I can't think of another one.
And that's
Another pet
totally
peeve.
fine. I mean, to be honest with you, the reason why I asked this question, and sometimes the reason why I say what's your top pet peeve or what are two that come to mind, it's because a lot of times when someone is trying to, like, hopefully someone does what I do, which is kind of doing their due diligence to go in and check out
Mhm.
someone that they might want to connect with. I feel like we should all be doing that to kind of figure out the best ways to connect with this person, but from a very authentic place, right? And so if they hear this podcast, well, chances are if they really truthfully want to connect with you, they're not going to lie, because that's one of your pet peeves, right? And so what is maybe something else that comes to mind that like, you know, like you've built an amazing product from scratch. I'm certain you've come across some roadblocks here and there. Maybe there's some pet peeves in there. Maybe, you know, it could be something to do with raising kids. I don't know.
Another one I think is just when people don't listen. And that doesn't mean like, I don't mean it like listen to me, like followed my advice. That's not what I mean. I mean, like they literally didn't hear what I said, and that's very frustrating as well. Like if I'm going to speak to you, I want you to be listening to what I'm saying.
Boom. Those are two really good ones. Yeah, because, you know, I used to have this, I forget how it actually was worded, but it's like, I don't want you to just hear me, but I want you to listen, or something along those lines, because there is a difference, right? There's a difference between just the sounds coming out of my mouth, right? Versus literally understanding, like taking an understanding and agreed. Like it doesn't have to mean you have to agree with me, but at least hear me out, you know? Totally. So yeah, thank you for offering that. Okay. And now for probably the most beautiful question I could ask a person is, and this is assuming that we are all, or we should be practicing gratitude. What is something that you're most grateful for?
My children and our health.
I kind of assumed that would come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. Why do you think that is?
I think most parents would probably answer that question that same way. They just bring so much joy, and health is everything. You know, without your health, health is everything.
Yeah. Like if you're raising your kids well, chances are there's a lot of things going well in your life, and of course, it doesn't mean that's always the case. But yeah, I feel like that's one that's kind of always be on the top of my list. Is I'm super grateful for my kids, and so I'm glad that you have that as one of your top ones as well. Brittany, how can people keep in touch with you and keep up to date with Malibu Milk and everything else you got going on?
I'm Brittany at malibumilk.com. That's my email. Brittany, Brittany, and then Malibu Milk with a Y. And I am available for questions, thoughts, etc.
Yes. And if anyone just didn't happen to get that, it's not Malibu Milky with a Y, right? It's Malibu Mylk, right? And again, like I hope I'm driving this into the brains of everyone to go out and kind of subliminally go and buy this amazing substance. I'm gonna keep trying it out, and I'll let you know if I buy more. But I'm certainly gonna be throwing out the Josh 20. So don't forget that. Check out the show notes. Brittany, thank you for what you've created. Thank you for your time, most importantly. And get back to those kiddos, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks. You, Josh.
Peace.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen. Better come give us a minute or two. Open the box up, we giving you tools. Giving your engine the fuel that it needs. Breathing into it, it's autoimmune. Make a connection, we're stronger in two. Making us one of a kind of a few. Work on the mind, but show me your moves. If you do what you say, you know what to do. Yeah.
Simply walk the talk.